on this computer. Okay. All right. Um, I'm going to change this to gallery view too. Okay. Hi, welcome, everyone who's here. It's always odd to be talking to people I can't see, but for everyone who's been joining us the last couple of weeks, I love that we've had some really enlightening conversations about racism in the wedding industry. And I'm definitely wanting to continue those conversations, but I wanted to just have a little diversion from that this week so that give us some time to work on things and think about things and ingest some of the resources that we've been putting out, and then come back to it perhaps in a couple weeks, and we'll have a fresh perspective and maybe some new insight into how we can all be addressing those issues in our own businesses. But in the meantime, I wanted to focus back on kind of how we're all dealing with, as small businesses, dealing with the pandemic and how that's affected all of us, which has been, kind of crazy for a lot of people I know. And I don't want to forget about that conversation because I think it's just as important. And so with that, I'd like to introduce everyone to Kate Ansari. She owns Haven Street Ballroom and Main Street Ballroom. There are two venues, wedding venues in Ellicott City and Baltimore. And I just want to have a conversation about, what her experience has been and how this has affected her. I believe that stories are helpful to us as small business owners to hear how other people are doing and how you're holding up and managing things during this time, because, it gives me the sense that we are all in this together. And so welcome, Kate. Thank you for joining us today. And let's see, so to get started, I just want to know first how you're doing, how you're holding up personally during this time.
It has been a crazy few months. I guess the silver lining of the whole pandemic has really been time with my family. I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I just got married last summer. So really having a chance to slow down. I know as an entrepreneur, a lot of us are sort of married to our work and it's a nonstop thing. And I'm really bad at putting my phone down, and I'm really bad at, putting a deadline for myself of stopping answering emails after a certain time. So it's really been helpful, to have this extra time with them. But at the same time, the first few weeks, it's like, what's happening? Am I gonna get through this? Things like that. So there was definitely a lot of wine happening. But then that got really old. So then just, sort of focusing on the kids again. So yeah, it's an emotional roller coaster for sure. It's not been easy. It's not been fun. The silver lining is the family and hobbies and getting into gardening, and I got chickens and we adopted a dog and doing all the, pandemic things, making the most of it for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so let's see, in 2018, a flood came through Ellicott City, and on that specific day, there was a wedding happening at Main Street Ballroom in Ellicott City, and you are the owner of that. I'm curious to know how that affected how you're handling things today, and kind of where you are with your business right now.
Sure. This is the first time since that happened that I've actually been thankful that it happened. It's always been sort of the thing that our business overcame and got through, and it was somewhat lucky to get through. And now that we're in a similar situation that has, closed the business for what was an indefinite amount of time, we are reopened now. But I really have used a lot of the lessons that I learned in 2018, things I did right and things I definitely did wrong, in going forward with the pandemic. So for example, it's always been in our contract that, non-refundable, acts of God, non-refundable. In 2018, I just felt so bad for all of our clients that I did refund about a month's worth of weddings. And what that ended up doing for me was meaning that, I didn't pay myself that year. That was like $75,000 of refunds that I gave out that I didn't contractually have to. It felt right at the time. It was extremely difficult financially for me, but it felt right. And the reason that I did that is because at the time we did not require event insurance in our contracts. So it was kind of like, well, they had no way of protecting themselves should this happen, should something happen, like an act of God. So from after that point, we reworded our contracts. We changed them to make it a requirement that our clients purchase event insurance. So that really put the burden on them to be prepared. And that's how they would obtain a refund should something happen again. And really our intention with that was if a flood ever happened again, because it has happened twice, in 2 years at the time. So should it happen again, I would feel like I had done my best to prepare clients and given them the power that they needed to have in order to protect themselves. Now flash forward, and this is a totally different kind of problem, totally different kind of natural disaster, but a natural disaster, nonetheless. And so this time around, I felt like I have prepared my clients in having that clause in my contract and in having conversations with them when they book about our requirements from that contract for event cancellation insurance. So this time around, we did not do refunds. And if you think of the scale, we were closed for a month in 2018 and we refunded $70,000. And that was 2018 when we weren't quite as popular or as big as we are now. We've grown. So, take that and move it to March, April, May, June, July, August, 6 months of weddings that we've rescheduled. If I was refunding those, the impact, we would not be here if I was refunding those. And I owe it to my clients to come back, because what I'm not going to do is go bankrupt and close the business and then I have all their money and I'm not returning it and they're just screwed. I'm not going to be one of those venues from the paper that you read about, that people create Facebook groups about for support. Not a thing I'm doing. So that's led to, difficult conversations and difficult, emails. And it's funny because, we're treating every client exactly the same. It's the exact same policies. Now, granted, it's kind of evolved as time goes on, right? So in March, it was, we'll reschedule you, through, for free from 6 months from your date. And then as the time kept going on and we were scheduling more and more, we were up to 52 reschedules that we had to do. Our policies did evolve, but everybody at that time, period, was given all the same options. And so I'd send out the same email to the 2 different clients, and one client would respond with you're amazing, this is so flexible and great, and I'm so happy, and this is wonderful. And then the exact same, a different client would respond to the exact same email saying I'm a horrible, horrendous human being, and I'm predatory and I'm the worst. So you can't make everybody happy. But the whole time I was going through the process, I was thinking, and my mom does a lot of behind the scenes work with me, and she answers a lot of emails. So she's very in tune with what's going on in the business. And so I would talk to her about things, and she's very much my moral compass. And she would, ask me, does this feel right? Does this feel okay in your heart? And yes, it would. And I would make decisions based on what felt okay in my heart. And so also similarly, having to draw a line now that we've reopened at 50% capacity, 50% for us is 150 at Main Street, 120 at Haven. That's more than our average wedding size. It's about 125 is really what our average wedding size is. So really, yes, there are concerns and reasons, but we're reopened and we can host an event that's the same size that you were originally planning. So we're no longer doing free reschedules and having that conversation with clients as well. Again, because we owe it to clients who have stuck with us to still be in business. So really it's been, a challenge in so much as it's an undefined marathon. It's a marathon that I didn't know when it was going to end. So starting in March, when we're having to reschedule people's weddings, and then we'd reschedule them for June, and then we'd reschedule those again for September. And, we've had some people who've been trying to get married, for the last 6 months. So, or I guess 3 months, but, it's really, when you start a marathon and you don't know how long you're going to be running for, it's really hard to know how to pace yourself. And there were a few weeks there, especially, I think it was like around early May, when people were starting to realize like, oh, this isn't going away anytime soon. And stay-at-home orders were being extended, and all these things, restrictions were being increased and extended, and there was really no end in sight. And that's when people sort of started, really not being as nice. But at the same time, in the back of my head, just thinking about what I need to do to stay in business and still provide a service to the clients. So giving them reschedule options. I had all these free dates that they could take if they wanted to move, to a date that, because especially at Main Street, Haven's more new, so we don't sell out quite yet. But Main Street, we sell out a year in advance, pretty much, every weekend date. So those dates would be sold. So rescheduling and really having that whole, maybe I don't feel it so much now, but if I take that revenue away from 2021, I'm going to be feeling it in 2021. So just trying to be smart, but also fair. And sometimes people think that's amazing and they think it's great. Like we've also offered, different like smaller wedding packages, and we have some clients who financially just can't afford it anymore. So what we're doing are smaller wedding packages are about half the price of our regular full day rental, and so we're just not billing them their second invoice, and they're still getting a wedding. It's just smaller and fewer services, but that way they're still celebrating and they're getting the pictures in the same location that they were planning on getting married in. Anybody who's like rescheduling to next year, we're still offering them, like a free little 2-hour elopement on their original date in case, that was a special day for them. They were planning on getting married on that date because it's their anniversary, or, all kinds of different reasons. So yeah, it's definitely been challenging. I think it's just because of the uncertainty. With the flood, I think I had a better idea. We had cleaned out the ballroom within 5 days. It was our physical structure there was not impacted that much. It was just a matter of waiting for the town to reopen. But, based on history, we had an idea that it would probably be like about a month, and it was. And so that was why, also part of why I was like, okay, we can probably do the refunds because it's just 1 month. But this was just so
long. Yeah, indefinite. And maybe if you can elaborate a little bit about some of those kind of difficult decisions or gut-wrenching, that's okay, decisions that maybe you've had to make over the last few months. Do you have staff, and have you had to let them go? And what has that been like for you in your own business?
Right. So in terms of staffing, I like to pat myself on the back a little bit because I think we've done it pretty smartly. Is smartly a word? The irony of me not knowing if smartly is a word is not lost on me here. So full-time, employees, it's me. I own the business 100% myself, and then I have one full-time W-2 employee. All of the rest of my staff are 1099, contractors who do the actual events. And really every single one of them is either like a stay-at-home mom, or is, it's their side job. It's not something that they rely on 100% for their income, and it's all kind of like bonus money. So for them, obviously we didn't have any hourly events for them to work, and they were, aware of that. But we've kept on our full-time staff member. She's really been great at, even though she didn't have events to work, it just kind of helping keep me grounded, make decisions. And now that we're, getting back in the swing of things, really hitting the ground running. And then, actually hiring more staff because we have so many events that were from the spring that we're pushing to the fall. I mean, we have every single weekend date, Thursdays, some Mondays, just booked through the end of the year. So like we need a ton of venue managers.
That's great. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I know that so much of your business has been a reflection of who you are as a person, and so much of yourself has gone into kind of creating this wonderful brand and that is diverse and inclusive and is inspiring, and at least from my perspective. Can you talk about how maybe some of those conversations with clients have impacted that or left an effect on you?
Sure. So being the face of your brand, owning a business is very personal anyway, right? It's your concept, it's your baby, you're putting yourself out there, you're earning money for your family based on this amazing idea that you had. So, anytime somebody isn't happy with your business or isn't happy with the way you're running things, it's very hard not to take it personally. And really that's, sort of what's been, gut-wrenching is when people, I've never been called predatory in my life. And I've never been told, I've never been accused of being unfair or lying or anything like that. And so just people taking their frustrations with, what's going on in the world out on you because you're the wedding vendor who holds the most of their money, and you're the wedding vendor who kind of sets the date and really has the most control over, their event, at least from the order of booking perspective, right? So they need to change their venue and get their date before they can change their photographer, before they can change their floors, things like that. It's really hard not to take it personally. Even when you're doing what's best for every other client who's still, happy with you. So, and also, for example, it's such a small number of people who've been unsatisfied. We've rescheduled 52 events. We've probably had conversations with about 100 clients about rescheduling their events. So 100 people reached out to us, 50 of them actually, we sent out new contracts, and just the sheer volume of that work is super fun. And, then of those people, maybe 4, right? So 4%, not bad. But 4, have had major issues with me. And so it'll ruin not my day, it'll ruin my week, my month. I'm still not over it because I take it so damn personally. And I know that's something I need to get over, and I know it's something I need to work on, but oh man.
No, I understand. I completely understand. I feel like, it's the same for us. So much of my heart and passion and soul goes into the photography that I create for my clients. And it's not only about, I want to make them happy. It's that I want to make them, I just want to make them beyond happy. I want them to see themselves as beautifully as I see them. And, it's not often that we get bad feedback, but oftentimes it's just their own vanity. And no matter what, I take that personally because, I want them to see themselves beautifully, and, they don't always look at pictures of themselves and see them that way, which I understand, but
that's a them thing. There's nothing else you can do. You can't change the way they look. You can capture the beauty that you see, but some people just will refuse to see it because they're not in that place yet.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar, with venues is you're trying to create this amazing experience, but sometimes people are just not in the right place to really have a positive experience because of everything that's going on.
Right.
And just having your name and your face on the brand and having people, you know, write reviews and all across every platform they can find and things like that. And then you're just scared to look at your phone. You're just like, you know what the notification is because we just had a conversation and it's not going to be good. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with that being said, I mean, talk to me a little bit about, you know, the future and like where you see things changing maybe, where maybe things will stay the same or go back to what we knew them before, maybe in the next 2 years or even in the next 5 years, kind of what's your prediction or thoughts about that?
Sure. And again, it's, you know, it's hard to really predict because things have been changing so much day to day, and I'll have clients who are still maxing out their guest count. You know, I have a wedding next week and she's right up at the 150, including vendors, you know, so some people are into that. And then some people are like, I have 10, you know, so, but what I have seen and what I find fascinating and actually love is people focusing more on the marriage, and especially like my elopement and intimate wedding clients who are like, I just want to get married. I want to be married to the person I love. And that, I feel like sometimes like, and it's not necessarily good for vendors who do their pricing based on guest count, but smaller, more intimate events really do have that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Intimate and emotional. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's something to be said when there's no way you can even invite anybody from work because they won't fit in your guest count. And it's just people who you actually want to see, who you actually like. It's not Barb from accounting watching you make out with your new husband. You know what I mean? Like it's people who are actually there for you and, you know, aren't there because of an obligation. And also trend wise, you know, maybe even if you do invite 200, 300 people, maybe Barb from accounting isn't going to RSVP yes like she normally would because, you know, she doesn't want to risk it for somebody who she's not super close with. So maybe the RSVP percentage I think will be a lot lower than typically it would be, because people are like, ooh, free food and free alcohol, but coronavirus, so I'm going to skip it. So I think you're going to see a lot more of people, you know, who actually care about the couple actually attending. Less maybe people who just want the free party.
Yeah. I hope so. I agree with you on the small weddings too. I really enjoy just kind of seeing that intimacy and the emotion that comes through in a really small wedding, although it doesn't bode well for those of us whose main income comes from very large weddings, but still it's endearing to watch. You know, there have been weddings that I've been the person zipping the bride's dress, and you know, because it's just the three of us. So anyway, I don't want to keep everyone for too long. Does anyone have any questions? Anyone who's here have any questions? Happy to let you jump in. Let's see, I have not checked the chat at all. Oh, no, awfully quiet today. Then I guess we'll call it a wrap. I just wanted to keep this short because you know, there's a lot of webinars that are going on out there, and I just wanted to have these quick conversations with people. And I'm really thankful that you were able to join me today and talk through some of these things. And I wish you all the luck, and we'll look forward to seeing those fun celebrations coming back to both of your venues. So
thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us today, and I look forward to connecting with you all next week. Bye.